guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic guest for the audience today, Jim Manning. Today's talk is going to be all about real estate. He's from Three Doors. We're going to talk about the market, interest rates, particular segments in the real estate sector that are doing well and not so well. He's got a lot of interesting experience and ideas, community, and I'm really happy to have him on the show. So, Jim, welcome.
Christopher, thanks for having me, and congrats on all the success that you've had in your career. And I totally get it why people are listening in on this podcast and the group that you have going in. There's a lot of value in your story and what you share with people. So thanks for putting this together, and hopefully I'll be able to take some of 18 years investing, guys, 3,500 deals, three companies under my belt, two real estate funds. Hopefully, I'll be able to take some of this knowledge and experience and share it and be valuable for you guys. So, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really like that. And it's thanks to an awesome team and great, thanks to a lot of technology, software. So, talk about your your background because you've done quite a lot. You've gotten funds, you've closed deals, you've built businesses. And so, talk about your journey, how you got started, and how the audience can benefit from your particular niche expertise.
Absolutely. So, oh man, where do we start? Well, I was born in February. I'm an Aquarius. No, we won't go that far back, guys. That'll take too long. I just turned 40, so we only have so many minutes on this podcast. But so my first job out of college was an internship for a self-made billionaire. And what was cool about it was I was able to meet this guy, shake his hand. He was a normal guy, just like you and I. And a light bulb moment went off in my head. It was like, whoa, I live in America. This is the greatest country on earth. This guy can do it. He's just a normal guy. Like, why couldn't I do that? And that was the moment that this fish knew it was in water. And I was able to realize, whoa, this is the opportunity of what we have in America. And as I was working with him, something like became apparent. At first, I idolized him. And then I realized, oh man, holy cow, this guy's not happy at all. And he's a little bit miserable. And it taught me one of the most important lessons that I've learned in life, which is that I believe our success should be measured by what we gave up to get it. Our success should be measured by what we gave up to get it. And so as a 22-year-old, I decided to get into real estate investing and fell in love with that idea. And I wanted to do something big and something really valuable, just like the entrepreneur that I met did. But I also had the opportunity cost. I also had the downside of being ultra successful in mind as well. So what I set out to do was okay, how do I become ultra wealthy, provide a lot of value for people along the way, and not lose what's most important in the process, and be able to enjoy my life, be a coach for my kids' t-ball teams, and kind of have the best of both worlds. And real estate for me has been a wonderful avenue for it. And yeah, I mean, it's been three companies now, and I coach. As important, I have four kids underneath 10, and I coach three of their softball and baseball teams, and yeah, I go to almost all their games. I'm a very present dad, and I figured out how to get business partners and team members to do a lot of the work for me, and now I get to play around. I have a passive wealth show, I have a podcast, and get to go on podcasts and talk to people and share some of the lessons along the way. And it took me a long time though. Like I only did one deal in my first 18 months. So if you're hearing 3,500 deals, guys, and you're brand new and haven't started out investing yet, don't compare yourself to the 3,500 deals. I can't compete against what we're doing now as a team, but we have over 30 team members now in the organization, right? So I mean, the lessons, so the single family real estate's my area of expertise. So when I'm talking real estate, I can tell you a lot about that. I can't tell you as much about some of the other stuff, and we started out doing something called short sales. Have you ever heard of short sales, Christopher?
Yes, yeah, I've heard of it, but for the audience,
Yeah.
elaborate for them.
Yeah, so like back in 2006 to 2009, the market went down around 20% depending on where you were. St. Louis, Missouri was 19.7% technically. I know that because I'm kind of a nerd, but and I like to study the markets. So it went down 19.7% in St. Louis. And if you owe $100,000 on a house and it's only worth $50,000, like, and you need, if you're in a situation where you need to sell it, you can either just let it get foreclosed on, or you can sell the property short of the loan amount. So what we
Mm,
would do is we would go to the bank and say, hey, it's only worth 50. Your loan on it's for 100,000. Will you allow this person to sell the property short? And we'll do a deal and take care of it so you don't become the landlord, and you can just keep lending money. So we did a whole bunch of that, and then we turned into, that was our first main focus. Then as the market shifted, we began doing a lot of property flips. And we built up the property flips to, I think it was in 2016 or 2017. Gosh, I barely remember what I did yesterday, much less 8 years ago. We did 250 flips that we owned at the same time. Had three full-time construction managers. We had countless employees, a couple transaction coordinators, you name it, that were just all doing all of these property flips like you see on HGTV. And uh, the fascinating thing about that is there's a couple of key lessons that are as important, especially for your audience, you physicians and high income earners that are listening to this. So we got to a point where we were doing over 100 flips a year like clockwork. And then we decided to double the amount of flips that we did from, we were in the hundreds, averaging 100 to 150, just kind of depending on the year, would ebb and flow a little bit. We went from the 100 to the 250. We doubled our deal flow in 1 year. And what happened was that we ended up making less money that year than we did the year before,
mm,
because you don't figure it taking 6 months to pay to even start a rehab when you buy it. If you're only doing one at a time, you kind of try and line it up, get the contractors going, and from day one get rocking and rolling on the deal. And when you're
mm,
doing a property flip, that's really important because your margins, it really eats into your margins. So we did double the deals, but we ended up making less money. Our saving grace was that we bought the properties right. We just didn't have the operational staff that could handle that added deal flow. And the mistake, it could have dealt us, it could have completely, we could have been done. Like it could have knocked us out had we overbought on the properties. Fortunately, we didn't. And what's so fascinating about it is that at that time, our property flips were our income. So just like a doctor that has income coming in, like we had already figured that out. Doing over 100 a year, we had plenty of income coming in, but we were just making the hamster wheel go faster. And this is why this
mm,
is so important for you guys to understand. If you already have a job that's bringing you in income, or a profession, I should say, it's bringing in you in enough income to be able to turn around and invest it. If you choose an investment like property flips, you're just making the hamster wheel go around faster. And so here we took this risk that almost knocked us out of the game,
mm,
and it wasn't actually getting us to financial freedom. We weren't making any progress there. So the reason why I share this with you guys is just to have that awareness that if you invest in a way that it generates passive income and generates you long-term wealth, when you already have the income, that will get you far closer to your goals than just, hey, I want to try and make $50,000 on a property flip like I saw on TV because that sounds fun and it sounds interesting, and but I'm already making enough money and I'm already paying enough in taxes. There's no tangible progress there, right? So here we took this risk that almost knocked us out of the game when we didn't have to. And so then what we learned from that was, okay, well, why don't we go back down to doing like in the hundreds for flips and keep the income coming in, but let's focus a little bit more on long-term wealth and passive income. So we stumbled upon a model called a lease purchase model. Have you ever heard of that, Christopher?
In terms for the buyer, I know it's the
Yeah,
own, yeah.
yeah, that's structure. So rent to own is another is kind of synonymous with it. There are differences to it. We like to structure it as a lease purchase because we put our tenants have the responsibility for all the repairs and maintenance. We don't want to be their landlord. We want to be their bank. Okay. And so we do the lease purchase structure. I see you're smiling. Maybe you've talked to some other people that like to do this too. But so we fell in love with the model. We get about 5% down before they move in. So, $300,000 house, our minimum is $15,000 down that we'll get that we don't owe taxes on until they move out of the property or buy us out of the deal. And so what was nice about that is we were able to get a little bit of like kind of flip-esque income coming in that's not taxable and have a long-term wealth and a cash flowing asset at the same time. So then we pivoted and we started building that and 2022, 2023, we did about 350 of them. Now we have a whole fund that's dedicated to it with I think last time I checked on the one that's closing down right now, uh, it's about 136 properties in the specific fund that's active right now, and we're going to open up a new one next month for and kind of do it all over again. But the amazing part about it is like, okay, now, yeah, we have the revenue coming in from different flips and different active income, but by focusing on some of the passive building, wealth building strategies that you can do, our start line moves forward. Like we're not starting from deal zero and square one on January 1st of the year. Like we're running a race that, as if we were 6 months into the year, the following year, and each year that goes by, like here we have this portfolio that's building and performing, that's getting us further and further along in the game. And that's really, so on the Passive Wealth Show, I really like talking about that. I like talking about the different impacts you can do in your investments. And so the lease purchase structure is really near and dear to my heart because one of the first clients that we had was in a tough spot. They had a child that had medical bills come up that they got behind on, and the kid has special needs, so needed a specific school district. And then they didn't have 8 years for their credit to get repaired. So they needed a school district that there's really no properties to rent in. They needed to buy a home, but a lender didn't want to touch them because of these medical bills that they had paid off. So we crossed paths with them. We said, well, we have a program for you. You can afford this home. You did the right thing. You paid off the medical bills and your credit, that one-time hardships in the past. So why don't you become a homeowner? Let's get your kid in the school district that they need. And so we're able to like help our community out. We're able to make a buck and make an impact at the same time. And what's fascinating about it was I originally got into real estate investing for the impact because I fell in love with the idea of buying a neglected property, putting money into it, bringing that piece of the world back to life where a family could then move into it and make memories. And as we were building the flipping business, what happened was it became more about Jim Manning and building the biggest, baddest flipping company that we could buy. And instead of being something that would be for the greater glory of God, I have a Jesuit education. That's for those of you that have the same. You've heard that over and over again, like I have. But that became for the greater glory of Jim. And through the lessons of all the extra deal flow and making a little bit less money, I've gotten to a place now as a 40-year-old where uh, I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want to make money as an investor, and I want to make an impact and help my community that I live in and help others at the same time. And I think we can do both. And I think it's such a shame that the financial industry, like when we invest in these index funds and these like global markets, we're giving away what's most powerful about having money. Think about it this way. Uh, Christopher Columbus had a financial backer. It wasn't the King of France, it was the King of Spain. There are parts of the world now that speak Spanish Could you imagine what if the King of France had backed him in his expedition? Those parts of the world would speak French. The entire world would be different. And so our capital cannot only have an impact. Like if we think about it, it can have influence, and it can promote something that maybe we feel called to promote or have a passion around. And when we only invest in these global things, like yeah, it's made a lot of millionaires, it's made a lot of multimillionaires. It can be a great way to make money, but we're giving away our influence at the same time. And so, I believe in diversification, and I think that yeah, we can invest in ways that generate us passive income, and we can invest in ways that drive home an impact and really help our neighbor out.
Yeah, that was a wonderful. I know if people wanted to find out more about you and kind of it's interesting because as you were talking, you were describing this 100 to 200 is basically the rat race, and then you're basically talking about more long-term wealth, which reminded me of a doctor who invests in single families, and he was saying that he does not sell, he just buys it and just accumulates. So that's kind of versus starting from zero that you described. If people wanted to find out more about you, and I know because you give webinars too, and you give seminars,
Mhm.
and so how could they find out more about you and follow you?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube. We just got our 10,000th subscriber on YouTube. Yeah. One time I was on a training, like a webinar with a gal, and I was like, "Hey, I'm so excited! I just got 10,000." And she goes, "Oh yeah, well I have a million." So anyway, you can help me out if you like what you're hearing, subscribe. But so Passive Wealth Show and passivewealthshow.com is our website that we have. If you wanted to book a call with myself or one of our team members, there's like a way to do that on like through a Calendly link is what it's called. You can kind of book a call and talk to us. One of my team members helped an organization grow to 2.5 billion assets under management, and one of the most brilliant investment minds that I've ever come across. I'm fortunate enough to call him one of my partners. You either meet with Dave Taylor's his name, or me, if you want to call him just to talk shop. And I like to set it up that way because business and real estate, it's a relationship business. And I only did one deal in my first 18 months, and I didn't start doing deals till I got the courage to ask people and to have conversations and to talk people. And I got to where I am because other people like pulled me up and helped me along the way. And I'm fortunate enough to be in a spot now where I can try and give back and do the same. So would love to help you guys any way I can. And I think Christopher, did you mention you want to talk a little bit about real estate market kind of trends? All right, thanks for having me on, guys. Hope you have a nice day.